What's something you'll get a lot of hate for if you say it out loud?
Being in a relationship seems very overrated. I've been single my whole life, and I've noticed that way too many of my friends and way too many people that I know only feel validated or see their worth when they're in relationships. They go,
Hi guys, welcome back to the YouTube channel. So I found this on the internet of this beautiful lady who has never been in a relationship. Now, the most intriguing part of this is that I've never really thought about it that, one can actually live their life and say, you know what, I want to get to know myself without being in a relationship. It has been like the most random norm that people should always be in a relationship. But then, wait till you hear our reasons and the values in them.
in a relationship seems very overrated. I've been single my whole life, and I've noticed that way too many of my friends and way too many people that I know only feel validated or see their worth when they're in relationships. They go from relationship to relationship with only a few weeks or months in between, or they always have to be talking to somebody because they don't know who they are outside of being in a relationship. They will settle for mediocre relationships because the thought of being alone is way more terrifying to them. And they're the same people who always complain about their partner and say that they're toxic or they aren't treating them well. When I tell these people that I've never been in a relationship before, they are immediately like, oh my God, but you're so pretty. Don't worry, your day will come. Love will find you. You will find your perfect missing puzzle piece. And I'm like, whoa, I didn't ask for all that. I'm not insecure about being alone because unlike you, my worth and identity and how attractive I am and how worthy I am of love doesn't come from being in a relationship. I'm single on purpose. So for being honest, growing up, I didn't really meet any conventional beauty standards, so it was pretty easy to stay single since no one wanted me. And going through that made me realize that the last thing I wanted to internalize was not feeling worthy of love just because men didn't want me. So I've taken a lot of initiative in just trying to become somebody that I'm proud of, somebody who's always challenging herself, learning something new, trying new things, investing in interests and hobbies. For example, I work out every day, and I've been doing that for years. I set goals to read a certain amount of books a year. I'm currently trying to become fluent in Spanish. Within the past 2 years, I've learned a lot about photography, and I've started doing some freelance here and there. So I think that everyone's goal should be to become so secure in themselves that having a partner isn't going to change that. Like, it doesn't really matter to me whether people like me or not because I like myself. Start asking yourself who you are. What do you want to do with your life? Where do you want to go? There is no reason why you can't be the person you've always dreamed of. And if you get to the point of being in a relationship, find someone who's also independent. When Jojo Siwa said, "Karma's a bitch, I should have known better," I should have listened to her. Because I do stand-up comedy, and I wrote a joke about this guy who I matched with on Hinge who ended things with me because he had to go skiing every single weekend for his mental health. And he actually said that to me. I'm not paraphrasing. But before he ended things with me for that reason, when we initially matched, I asked him what he was looking for, and he told me he wanted to connect with me. And I was like, what do you mean by connection? And he was like, I really just want to connect with your mind, body, and spirit and just really get to know you. But for some reason, every single time we hung out, he forgot to connect with my mind and spirit and would only connect with my body. So I just wish he would have been honest up front to tell me that what he really meant by connection was connecting his to my vagina. So like my entire situation with him was way too comical to me for me not to turn it into stand-up material. So tonight I had a stand-up comedy show, and the guy who I wrote this joke about was in the audience. He also came to the show with his new girlfriend. Like, you literally can't make this stuff up. So I had to get up on stage and say this joke that I already rehearsed about a guy who was literally sitting in the audience. And then after the show, he came up to me and said, "Good job." But before he even said anything to me, his girlfriend was the one who came up to me first and was like, "Oh my God, you did such a good job. You were so funny." And then he was in the background like, yeah, good job. And there's no reality that he didn't know it was about him because it was pretty specific. In case you didn't know this already, stand-up comedy is not for the weak. Because when I found out that he was in the audience, I was like, I could either change my joke or stick to what I've practiced. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go up there and speak my truth. Because if he didn't want to be talked about, he should have treated me better. but it was still kind of a traumatizing experience. I made a list of men with the most undateable professions. Though most men are undateable in general, yet women decide to date them, and I don't know why, but that's a separate conversation. But here's a list of men with jobs that I will not date. First up, software engineer. This should come as a surprise to no one who lives in Seattle or even San Francisco. I just don't understand how such a large subset of men can have absolutely no social skills yet have massive egos. Two, if you are a landlord or you say you work in real estate. I'm sure there are nice guys who work in this profession, but I think I can safely assume that our values probably just don't align, and that's okay. And I know what some of you are typing up in the comments right now.
My uncle's a landlord and he's actually a really great guy. He's a really great guy.
Okay, great. Then you go fuck your uncle then. Three, anybody who says that they are a CEO or a founder. It just sounds pretentious. Like, who did you oppress to get to that position? Next, an entrepreneur. It's kind of in the same vein as a CEO or founder with sounding pretentious. But these are the type of men who, if you go on a date with them and you ask them what they do for work, they're just like, it's kind of complicated. It's you just wouldn't get it. It's I run my own business. If you are an entrepreneur, you need to show up to the date with a W-2. I need to make sure that you have a legal, verified income. If you work in private equity or venture capital, to be honest, I don't really know what either of those mean. It just sounds evil. So I won't be participating. A teacher, this one hurts because I know that personality-wise, I would get along with the teacher so well, but how will he support my life, our lifestyle? Unfortunately, gold star stickers and teacher of the year trophies don't pay the bills. This one might come as a surprise, but a doctor. I wouldn't date a doctor because they wouldn't have time for anything. Wait, actually, I think I take it back. Yeah, I take everything back. I actually really like the idea of dating a doctor because that means that I would never have to see that loser. If I had a boyfriend, that would be the ideal situation. I never want to see that loser. Last but certainly not least, a grad student. Because sometimes you meet a grad student and he goes out of his way to tell you that he wants to date you, and then he cancels on every single date you guys plan together because he decides that he'd rather do his homework instead. And then when you guys finally get to go on a date after 2 months of talking, he tells you that he realized that every single day of the week he has school and every single weekend he's going to be out of town skiing, so he doesn't have time for a relationship like he thought he would. He only has time to hook up. But instead of directly saying that he wanted to hook up, he kept saying that he wanted to connect with my mind, body, and spirit, but keep it casual at the same time. And I was like, okay, sure, let's see how that goes. So we embark on this relationship of connecting our genitals as well as our mind, body, and spirit. But for some reason, every time I saw him, he forgot to connect with my mind and spirit and would only connect with my body. And after a few weeks, I decided to go to the grocery store to pick up a tube of liquid to assist in us connecting our mind, body, and spirit. I sent him a text about it while I'm at the store because I thought it would be cute, fun, flirty, romantic, and he doesn't respond for 3 days. He just lets the word SCHLONG sit on his phone. And then he finally responds with a long ass paragraph. And in the very beginning, he said, "Hey, you, I hope you were able to pick out something nice for yourself," even though I said that I got it for me and his, he said, "I'm glad you picked out, I hope you picked out something nice for yourself." And then later in the text, he said, "You're really great, but I'm not interested with dating anymore because I'm too busy with school." And I said, okay. Because straight women center their lives around men, not friendship. The hardest part about making friends, especially as I get older, is realizing that not everybody values friendship in the same way I do. And even though there's a correlation between women and relationships and their ability to be a good friend, the root of it all isn't whether or not you're in a relationship, it's whether you center your life around men. Like whenever my single girlfriends get into relationships, I literally get so sad because I'm like, well, I'm never gonna see that girl again. Bye, Rebecca. Hope I get a wedding invite. And that's why when I was on Bumble BFF, I would see so many profiles from women being like, just realized my only friend's my boyfriend. Where did all your other friends go? Like, it is such a universal experience to never see or hear from a woman again once she gets into a relationship. Like, what? Like, you think somebody is your friend until a man shows interest in them, until a man breathes in their direction, and then they go cuckoo. Like, they forget how to act. And the worst part is that it'll be for the most mediocre ass man too. This is how I know that sexuality is truly a spectrum, because I'm straight, but I'm like, I am not straight like that to like drop every and anything for a mediocre ass man. This is literally just me ranting now, but literally every time one of my friends meets a new guy and they're like, I really like him, I'm like, what about him? Like, what? Like, I am just so unimpressed by most men. Legitimately, I'm always like, that's your man? That's who you dropped everyone for? Like, that's so embarrassing. So embarrassing. I'm sorry, but I've never met a girl with a boyfriend who's actually looking for friends. People get upset with me for saying that, but it's like, have you ever met a woman with a boyfriend? Those girls are not looking for friends. They just like to say that they are. One of the reasons why I'm not really interested in being friends with women who are in relationships is because relative to single people, they typically lack the drive to put in enough effort to build a meaningful connection that comes from a good friendship. These are the girls who are never free to hang out or never follow through on plans because they're too busy hanging out with their boyfriend. So you become their friend, but then you never hear from them again. Or they invite their boyfriend to every social gathering, whether he's invited or not, because they're codependent. Like, they are just not desperate enough for friendship and community. And I think it's because so many people out there view friendships as a placeholder until they meet a partner or a spouse. So it's like, why would I want to be friends with somebody who's not going to prioritize me the same way that I'm willing to prioritize them? Like, it's just ultimately incompatible. In my experience, if this doesn't apply to you, then it doesn't apply to you, and that's great. Unless I knew you before you got into your relationship, I don't want to be your friend, because at least there was opportunity for a foundation to establish.
And very critically, while I choose to agree to some of the things she has said about not being in a relationship because this has helped her to rediscover herself or to discover herself and to know herself and to love herself for her true self, I also feel that people who have been in relationship is not a bad idea at all, because if you are able to find good people, they can help you to rediscover yourself, to find things that you might never find about yourself. I stand to be challenged on this point, but then I feel that certain people have the impact to help us find better values in ourselves, and vice versa. If you agree with me, please leave your comments down below. If you do not agree with me, I'd like to know what are your views. If you are not anywhere, just leave your comment. Let's learn, okay? Thanks for watching. Bye.